Hey, what's up, guys? Got another new video here for you. This is Tuned in Sports. I'm Bryson.
I'm Bennett.
I'm Steve.
And in today's video, we got another little NBA weekly breakdown. Before we get started, I just wanted to say we're going to try to make some of these things like a weekly thing. So instead of doing like, okay, Thunder had a game tonight, let's talk about it. We're going to try to do like one video for hockey and one video for basketball, maybe a week. And then maybe a little bit more if you include, you know, if we got other teams and or like rumors or trades or something like that. We might, you know, have like one of those kind of videos. But for the most part, in terms of games played, we're going to probably do like one video every week or every other week where we just talk about the week's games and things like that. And we're even going to try to do the same thing for hockey as well. So that's kind of the plan moving forward for Tuned In Sports. And maybe even the same thing can be said for Dent Sports as well, even though, you know, that's their stuff. So they'll, you know, come together and make a decision on that. But that's going to be the model on this channel at least. But with that being said, so we're going to break down some of the recent games and stuff and just our team's performances over the last week or so for each of our teams. I suppose we'll go ahead and start with the bad and then move on to the good. So we'll start
with the Clippers then?
Yeah. Exactly. So we'll start with the worst team in the league, and then we'll move forward to the Thunder, and then we'll hit the Clippers at the tail end.
Since I already have my own channel, I'm not going to
Speaking of which, make sure you check out. Actually, you know what? Let's start with the Clippers because it'll be a pretty short segment. But speaking of the Clippers, make sure you check out the Clip Joint. His channel where they have a bunch of podcasts and stuff. We're commonly on the Clip Joint as well as Don as well as sometimes on the Clip Joint. So, you know, it's pretty much we all do our channels together. I've even been on Dent Sports a couple times now. So, I mean, if you guys like what you see here, we literally do pretty much all our channels together. And we do all our channel pretty much in the same garage as well. So make sure you check that out.
But anyways, let's go ahead and hop into it.
Hop into the Clipper.
Well, you know, as of recent, you know, Paul George just recently went out with an injury, and we're definitely so far feeling the effects of it. We're on a 2-game lose streak, but we got a couple games coming up to where we could probably turn it around. So I'm really happy about that. You know, we're also, I'm also hearing that we might be trading Lou Williams and Patrick Beverley away. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens with that. I mean, I'm hoping that we don't, but at the same time, if we can get a good return or, you know, possibly either trade those two for maybe even a better player, then because I don't feel like Lou Williams especially has really played up to how he's been. I mean, before when he first got here, he definitely hasn't been playing that caliber ball.
And I was thinking that he looked like he was fitting in a little better this year, but you know the stats would suggest otherwise because he's averaging like 9 points a game in this season, or at least last time I saw. And, you know, I felt like he was fitting the team a little bit better, but, you know, the stats would kind of say that his
production's just going down.
Yeah, his production's going down, and then the other thing is he's never been that great of a defender, so really what you have him on the team for is offense, but he's not really
providing much for it.
Much for you, yeah. So I definitely can understand why they might be looking to move him.
And I feel like he still has a lot of value nonetheless because, you know, he is a guy that could be a very valuable piece on a different team that maybe he could fit better on. Like, Mavericks, for example.
I was going to say, that was the example I used in another video was, him going to the Mavericks, I think would be great for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, having another person outside of Luka that can really kind of hammer down the...
I'd like to see him go to the Warriors.
I freaking hate that.
Yeah,
he goes to the Warriors. There could be trouble brewing.
I don't know because
I think he's instant offense, and
no, I think so too. But I think he might run into the same problem on the Warriors. Whereas the Mavericks, I think he would.
He could definitely be the main option off the bench for the Mavericks because I don't feel like they got a lot of great scorers on their bench unit. I mean, the one I would say was a good scorer would be Tim Hardaway, but I think he's starting for them.
I don't think it matters where Lou goes because Lou's just that type of player. I don't know what's caused his problems. I don't know that he's been super healthy is one reason. And I think maybe he just is, kind of settling for less than maybe what he was in the past. Who knows where he's at mentally? Like maybe he doesn't really, maybe he's just not, tuned in right now with it. Like he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
And because his name has been put in trade rumors and all this stuff previously, and so maybe he's feeling like, why should I be so worried about, this team when they don't even want me here?
Yeah.
And so maybe he's not giving full effort, I'm not suggesting that that's the case, but I could see a scenario where he just says, I really don't have any reason to go all out.
Yeah.
When these people don't care about me as it is.
Yeah. That's probably part of it too. I definitely do think though that it's going to be interesting to see what they do and where he goes because I think in the right situation you might see him return to form a little bit, but I think in the wrong situation you could see kind of what you're seeing. Well, no, I don't think even more of a decline, but I think you could see similar to what you're seeing so far. If he goes to a team where he doesn't really fit or he's not even really seeing the floor or seeing big minutes.
Well, anybody that's going to trade for him obviously is going to feel as though they could use him and work him into the system.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not going to go to somewhere that doesn't need him.
Well, no, but if he's involved in a trade for somebody that team is looking to get rid of anyways, they might just say, oh, okay, we'll take Lou Williams. What the heck? He's a pretty solid player, but that may not make the difference. You know what I mean? Like if they trade with somebody that's looking to get rid of somebody that they want anyways, and then they're just like, you can have Lou Williams. He could end up on a team that's not really doing much. But at the same token,
yeah.
Or if they just include Lou Williams, like for instance, if they were to do a trade with the Knicks, just like, okay, well, we really want so-and-so from the Knicks. Well, okay, here's Lou Williams. Oh, good. He's a nice player. They can add him to the team, and he's a sixth man, so it looks like they're trying to do something. But at the end of the day, they're still not going anywhere anyways, at least this season. So, it could be one of those things. But like I said, if he ends up on the Mavericks, I think that's an overnight difference maker real fast for that team.
I don't know that, truthfully, I don't know that the Clippers are going to be interested in trading him within the conference where they got to go face him in the playoffs.
Well, that's true too.
I could see a scenario where maybe I said the Warriors because I just felt like that would be a spot where they could really utilize him because with Klay Thompson being out, if they could add one more scorer in the mix there right now, they could be dangerous. Now, the odds of the odds of Clippers actually okaying a trade with the Warriors, probably not happening.
Yeah, because not only are the Warriors in the West, but they're even in their same division.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I don't see that happening. I'm just saying we're just talking hypothetically.
Hypothetical,
about
anyway. Yeah.
right, where he would fit in.
Yeah.
I mean, the Warriors are at the top of the list as far as I'm concerned. But at this point in time, I mean, I don't see them sending him somewhere where they're going to have to deal with him. Because, I mean, anybody, I don't care who you are, that's been watching basketball knows how dangerous Lou Williams can be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked that they're actually even entertaining wanting to get rid of him. Because, I mean, when he's right, he's unguardable. And, I mean, he can put up a lot of points in a hurry, and I'm actually surprised that they're even entertaining the idea of trading him. Now, Patrick Beverley, I can totally understand that. I think you can get what Pat Beverley gives you from somebody else.
Yeah.
And they've proven that they really haven't missed him since he's been gone.
Yeah.
So,
'cause-
I'm not trying to,
Knock on him and
right,
say
not,
he's
yeah,
not a
I'm not,
valuable
yeah. I mean,
asset.
he's definitely a valuable asset to the team because he plays hard-nosed defense, and he's definitely probably a leader as far as
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that talks in the locker room and makes that kind of stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
So his energy on and off the court is probably important to the team.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think this team is mature enough now where I don't think they necessarily need that.
Yep.
I think they got the players there already that can kind of handle all the things they need. But Lou Williams, I don't understand why you want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Unless, like we said too, I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. He could be telling management that, I don't really like playing here anymore for whatever reason. He feels his role is diminished or what, I don't know, have any idea what the real story is. And if that is the case and, they do decide to trade him, I hope they do him a solid by trading him somewhere where he's got a chance to do something.
Uh-huh.
Don't send him to Charlotte or, some horrible place where he'd be in a worse situation than he is now. Of course, that would be most places because the Clippers are, looking at championships.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're almost guaranteed going to somewhere that's going to be worse. But my point is don't send him to somewhere where he just rides out the rest of his career with no chance to win a championship or something.
Yeah, that would suck.
In my opinion, I think they should look at trading him somewhere in the East, like maybe at Raptors or like even the Celtics or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's where I would send him if I was to have a preferred destination for him.
Not me. I'd send him to Detroit, Orlando, Washington. Some team you ain't got to worry about seeing in a playoff run.
Well, you were talking about sending him somewhere where he has a chance.
No, I'm saying for him, I hope they do. Yeah. But if I'm the team, I don't really care where he goes. I'm not sending him somewhere where I have to see him.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I mean, I was speaking personally from my standpoint. I would hope that they would do him a solid and send him somewhere decent. Mm-hmm. But I could totally get it if the team said, no, have fun, spending the rest of your days in Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know that they were entertaining that because they were interested in D-Rose, but, as we know, he already got traded, so we'll get into that when we start talking about the Pistons, but
yeah, so speaking of which, let's move on and talk about the next team. I guess we'll go ahead and mention the Pistons now since he brought him up and
open the door.
Yeah, and the Pistons got a lot of good things going on right now. They're dead last in the East. They got the worst record in NBA. And they just came off trading one of their better players for another piece. So, as far as the trade goes, they got Dennis Smith Jr. and I think they got some draft picks and stuff.
Yeah.
Got rid of Derrick Rose. got rid of Derrick Rose, which, at the end of the day, I think by the time the Pistons would be, now, again, just like I say all the time, Miami Dolphins is a perfect example of a team that went from nothing to contender in basically an offseason. So I'm not saying that it can't be done. However, by the time that I feel realistically the Pistons would be able to seriously contend with their roster, either Derrick Rose's contract would be up or he would be giving you a lot less than he is right now. So I don't think that, he's a piece of that moving forward. If anything, he was a piece to get another piece and some draft picks that could potentially be a piece. So I think moving him is just fine. I mean, realistically, I don't think he's going to lead you to the championship. He's definitely not leading this team the way it's currently constructed to anywhere. And he's not going to be the difference with probably, a couple of other draft picks and stuff. It's just not going to happen. So as far as I'm concerned, while he's still got some value, more than fine to trade him, especially to a team like the Knicks who aren't doing anything anyways. Dennis Smith, I don't really know too much about him, to be honest with you, but I know that he's got some game. So it's not like they got nothing in return. So I think that's kind of what the MO of the Pistons is and should be, which is, the same thing as the Thunder, which, given that they got the Thunder GM or whatever, I'm sure is part of what they're looking at. And saying, this team's not doing anything, and if we're going to rebuild, we need to really rebuild instead of like, okay, well, we've got rebuilding plans, but we're still going to keep these, huge contracts and stuff and then let these players walk away for nothing. So and given that he came from the Thunder where that's what they're doing and he knows what it looks like and stuff, and the Thunder, they generally have great ownership in general. I mean, Sam Presti and these guys do a good job. So, and they always are a team that has a clear direction for the most part. So I really feel like the guy for the Pistons is trying to implement that here in Detroit. So I was a fan of that trade that they made. And, overall, I think that it's going to be good for them. Now, This season's been rough, no doubt, but, you see them compete some nights and, give teams games. Just the other night, they almost beat the Lakers.
Without three of their starters.
And they beat the Lakers the game before.
Yeah, and they should have beaten them the other day. I mean, they had the lead and blew it pretty much. So it was more than a tight game and really should have performed or should have been a win for them, but
They were missing 3 starters too, which didn't
yeah,
help.
exactly. But I mean, really, this season, what it's all about is just evaluating players that you have, figure out who's a piece moving forward and who you can live without. And I feel like they already did a really great job the other day or whatever. I feel like they did a wonderful job in just this season, in their drafting and stuff. Because a lot of the players that they brought in, drafting-wise, have turned out to be good pieces for their team. Mm-hmm. Killian Hayes has played at a high level. Sadiq Bey's shown some promise, as well as the other guy. I can't think of his name, but the shooting guard or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. As well as, past draft picks. And Jackson, yeah, well, he wasn't a draft pick, though. But Josh Jackson has definitely really stepped up. And so you're seeing the emergence of some of these players and stuff. And so I definitely, have been impressed with that. And I think they should be impressed as well. And from there, you just kind of figure out, okay, who's going to stay, who's going to leave, who's a piece, who's not. And I think that's what they're doing. And as a result of, some injuries and different things, you've seen a lot of the players that maybe wouldn't otherwise get these minutes. And I think it's, benefited the team, even though, you're looking at a 5-18 record, and you're like, yeah, how is anything that we're doing beneficial? But at the end of the day, I mean, you're having a better chance in the lottery, I guess, and you weren't doing anything this year anyway, so why win, right?
Yeah.
Other than the fact that I got them to win over 23.5 games.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's
my take on this whole situation with the Pistons is I wasn't expecting a whole lot coming into the season. I mean, they pretty much said they were going to kind of blow things up and rebuild this, and I fully expect Blake Griffin to be traded by the time the trade deadline hits. I don't know where he's going to end up going, but, I mean, hopefully we can trade him away as well. As far as the trade that just happened, I mean, I'm a Derrick Rose fan, and I wish him well in his new, in his new venture over in New York. I think primarily the Pistons were using him more or less to kind of nurture the young guys, bring them along, teach them a lot of the stuff that an NBA vet can teach you. So I think his value was more in that area than so much the Pistons looking at him for wins. He's still playing the game at a high level, which is nice to see. Considering his history with injuries and stuff. So, he still has some value. I don't know how much, what he's really going to bring for the Knicks, but who knows? As soon as I say that, the Knicks can turn around and make a playoff run. You just don't know how it is. Like you said, I mean, you can virtually turn things around,
Well, yeah, and I mean, right now they're one game outside of the 8th seed. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they're...
they're right there. Yeah, they're in a fight. They're in a fight.
And
for the
even
playoffs.
though they have a losing record, I mean, it's just like every other year. It seems like I thought this year was going to be different, but so far, up until the 5th seed, it's losing records on the East right now. Everybody in the top 4. I mean, the 5th seed Pacers have a 500 record, but everyone else from 5th seed down. Because 12-12 is not a winning record, is 500 or worse. Right. So it's not as if these teams are just balling. So I mean, even in the East more so than the West, you can make a trade here or there, and it can really make a difference pretty quick for you. You know what I mean?
No, there's definitely like I said, I mean, the Knicks could turn things around, and maybe. Derrick Rose is exactly what that team needs at this point.
Yeah.
Plus, he has a history with Tom Thibodeau, so he's played for him once before. And
in
Chicago. So I'm thinking Thibodeau knows what buttons to push with that guy. And, obviously Thibodeau must have liked something about him, otherwise he wouldn't have wanted to trade for him.
Yeah.
So, but from Detroit's standpoint, I mean, Dennis Smith Jr., another young player, very talented. He can do a lot for you offensively, and he's not a bad little player. And then on top of it, to get a second-round pick out of it, which, given the Knicks, the fact that the Knicks generally are not in the playoffs and this and that could still end up being a pretty high pick, early second round, So that could actually end up being something that was a really good thing to have happen for the Pistons. Because at this point, it's not about anything other than basically we're going young, we're rebuilding, we're doing everything we can to turn the page on this. I hate to sit here and talk about that stuff because, I mean, every one of my teams seems like we're in a rebuilding stage.
Yeah.
I mean, the Detroit sports right now is about as bad as it's ever been in its history. Where literally we do not have a team that's competing for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we have absolutely nothing going on that's good. This whole, everywhere you look is just bad. And so, I mean, it's we're in the doldrums right now as Detroit fans. I mean, there's nothing to be proud of or happy about. So the only thing we can hope is that, the leadership of each of the individual teams has a plan in place to kind of get things turned around.
Yeah.
The Pistons, I can only pray that what they're doing is going to turn out. I mean, let's face it, they can't get any worse. So
you can't do worse than last in the league.
Yeah, I would figure things are going to get better eventually here. The only problem is it's always the same thing. We have a hard time keeping players when they get good. Because, mid-market team who wants to live in Detroit, when you can be out here in L.A. on the beach,
in the middle of winter.
Right. Opposed to freezing your nuts off and shoveling snow. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where Detroit's always going to be a tough place to, to kind of acquire talent to because, it's just not a favorable location.
Yeah.
But, I'm hoping that each of those teams, Tigers included, will get things turned around eventually. Because, otherwise it's like...
Yeah. Well, hopefully the Lions can make the playoffs, and then Detroit, like the one thing that you read a while back ago said if Lions make the playoffs, then Detroit fans will have something else to do in December besides watching the Pistons suck and shoveling snow.
Exactly. That's basically what it's at. Like I said, Detroit's just horrible right now. I mean, it doesn't matter what sport you look at. Every sport, they're dead last, or supposed to be.
Yeah. Well,
and the basketball team's dead last, and the hockey team's right there. So, and the Lions are garbage, and
the Tigers are projected to be.
And the Tigers are projected to finish last in their division. So,
very upbeat.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about this is just horrible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's move on.
Yeah.
Well, I never got to say my part on the Pistons.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I won't take long, but I like kind of what direction they're headed. I've really liked the acquisition of what's his name, Jeremy Grant. That guy's really showed out since he's joined that team, and it just kind of shows that. I mean, I feel like he had a hard time fitting in with the Nuggets last year. But I don't think he was that bad of a player. I mean, and he's proven it since he's gotten to Detroit. So,
he's actually changed his stripes. I mean, literally. I mean, he was more of a defensive guy. Now he's Detroit's leading scorer, and I mean, somebody you got to deal with on a nightly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm a really big fan of his. And as far as the Blake Griffin thing goes, I honestly have a feeling like they're not going to trade him yet this year. For some odd reason, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, he won't be there next year. They'll cut him or trade him. He's not a part of this team moving forward.
But I don't think that they'll trade him before the trade deadline. I see it happening over the offseason. But we'll see what happens. But, yeah.
The only way he doesn't get traded is if somebody looks at his contract and says, we don't want to take that on.
Which I could easily see happening, to
but
be honest.
If the contract is the issue, you may have a point that he might not get traded. But
I don't think it's because they wouldn't be interested in
right.
trading.
The contract would be the only sticking point.
Yeah.
There is no way in hell the Pistons are moving forward with Blake Griffin. I mean, it's not happening.
I'm not saying they won't trade him at some point. I'm just saying I don't know if it will be this year.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, if they don't trade him, I don't think it's because they have no interest in it. I think they have more than enough interest in it. I just think that the contract and everything and what he's shown this year, I don't know how.
Well, it's so difficult to really evaluate him because the guy's never healthy.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, he can play on any team. Like, he's that good. He could be an asset on any team. He can play at a very high level. But the problem is the guy spends most of the time on the IR, and you're paying him big time bucks to sit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel bad for Blake only in that, I don't feel bad for him because he's making all kinds of money and not having to play. But I do feel bad for him in that I think that he is a guy that generally would like to be on the floor and to showcase his talent and would like to be on a winning team.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's one of the more talented players in the league.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I mean, the problem is that you combine his injury-prone status that he has,
along with his contract, then you just have a hard time getting anything. And well,
I mean, in my opinion, Detroit made the mistake taking on that big contract when he went from the Clippers over there.
yeah,
I mean, there was a reason the Clippers were willing to get rid of him, and it wasn't because he's healthy every game. I mean, if it was strictly a talent issue, the Clippers would have never gotten rid of him anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But they saw the writing on the wall, and the Pistons obviously said, "Oh yeah, well we're willing to watch that."
Mm-hmm.
We're willing to take part of that. So, I don't know. It just seems like to me that, things haven't worked out in Blake's favor.
And it sucks because I like Blake a lot. I think he's definitely a very, very, very good player when he actually is playing. I mean, I feel like the guy is, honestly, talent-wise, I think he's definitely one of the top 10 players in the league at his position. I mean, by far top 5 at his position when healthy, if you ask me. So, I mean, it's really unfortunate that his career really hasn't skyrocketed since he left LA. So, I mean,
well, he's in a bad position because A, he's not on the floor enough, and then B, he plays in Detroit, which is a mid-market team, so they're not getting a whole lot of national TV time, and so he's not getting the spotlight in the highlight session.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you got two things working against you, and I mean, if he's healthy, I mean, there's probably not a team that wouldn't like to have him.
Yeah. Well, Jay,
But-
I can't really, outside of maybe the Lakers, I can't really name a team that couldn't benefit from his services. I mean,
No, I mean he can play at a high level. If he's healthy and everything, he can be an asset to any team. But
Yeah.
the problem is that he just never is,
yeah,
and he spends the majority of his time on the sidelines with knee problems or whatever the case is.
yeah.
So, and that's just kind of a bad beat for him because I'm sure nobody wants to be that way. Nobody wants to be on the sidelines all the time.
No, he just assumed be out there and
Be balling it.
remembered as one of the better players. So.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I mean, not much that you can do about it, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, we'll see what ends up happening with him. And if he gets traded, we'll see if he's able to play. And if he's able to play, then he could benefit somebody for sure. And if not, then, well, somebody's going to eat a massive contract and not get much for it. So.
Well, I'm not even sure at this point of what his contract looks like and how many years are left on it.
Yeah, I would imagine this is.
Because I know when the
It's got to be
Pistons-
near the end, because he's been in Detroit a couple years now.
I would think so.
But
Well,
anyway,
yeah.
let's move on to the Thunder before this video gets too crazy long.
Yeah.
We're already 34 minutes, so let's get into the Thunder, I guess. Not much to say about this team, to be honest with you. They're struggling. The Pistons are dead last in the East, and the Thunder are second to last in the West, only ahead of the Timberwolves, which not really a surprise there. As far as the team overall, though, I'll say that they've definitely competed and played at a pretty high level. You know, they're not generally getting just absolutely blasted by teams they're competing. Unfortunately, they just don't have the talent to keep up for the most part. You know, they don't have player for player the ability to just go out there and beat anybody. For the most part, it's, well, hopefully we can do okay, because otherwise we're going to lose.
Yeah.
And, you know, that sucks that that's the case, but at the end of the day, it happens. Now, the one thing that I will say about them is that, like I said, they're very much competing, and as a fan, knowing that they're going through rebuilding and all this other stuff, that's all you can really ask for, because going into this season, you knew that this was not going to be good. However, they already have 10 wins, and, you know, the ESPN or whatever, their expectations for them going into this season, they put them at, I think, 25.5 or something. And I wouldn't be surprised if they passed that, because they're competing in pretty much all their games. I mean, hell, last night we should have beaten the Lakers.
Yep.
But, you know, they ended up pushing it to overtime. And then in overtime, I think we scored maybe 3 points total. And we ended up losing by like 9. So that sucks. But at the end of the day, it's not like we're just getting absolutely hammered by most people. We're competing, and like I said, as a fan, knowing that this is what it's gonna be, that's all you can really ask for. Knowing that it's gonna be a rebuild and stuff like that, you know, that's one thing. But at the same time, nobody wants to sit here and watch their team lose by 50 every night, and that's not really what's going on. So I give the coaching staff, the ownership, and the players, and just the team overall credit for not just
cashing it in and saying,
cashing in on the season and saying, oh, okay, well, we're gonna suck. And the other thing about it is that because we're on the West, well, I guess can't really say it because it comes down to record overall, but I'm just saying, I mean, we're second to last in the West, but we have a better record than, like, a good portion of the teams in the East. I mean, we are better than five teams in the East. We have a higher record than.
I mean, I think you're only a win away from being the 8th seed in the East.
Yeah, exactly. We'd be the 8th seed in the East with how we're playing. We'd be in the race. Now, obviously, in the West, it's a different story because there's so many teams that are tough over there. So, you know, like I said, expectation-wise, it's going to take a lot more in the Western Conference to be able to get to that point where we are seriously competitive as opposed to how it is in the Western Conference. I mean, in the Eastern Conference where, you know, we could be in rebuilding and still make it in the playoffs. I mean, even though we did that in the West last year, but even though we were technically rebuilding, we still had quite a few good players and pieces on the team that could, that were able to get us, and young players and stuff like that. But, you know, going into the offseason, that's going to be what it is all about, really. Because, you know, when we're talking about going into the offseason and stuff, you know, we're going to have a whole bunch of draft picks, and we're going to have a pretty, depending on how the lottery goes, we could have a good pick also in the draft, and that would be nice. And, I mean, we're going to have plenty of options as to what we want to do. And so the offseason is going to be really where, as a Thunder fan, we should be paying attention and seeing what happens. And then next season is going to be similar. And this season is really just figuring out who can play, who can't, who needs to be moved, who we should keep, and, yeah, go on from there.
I mean, if you had to ask me, my guess would be probably that they'll end up shipping Horford somewhere. I mean, not necessarily this year, but, in the coming future. I mean, probably next year or something. But, or over this off season, I could definitely see it happening. Just because, I mean, I don't think his contract is really all that great. So,
No, it's
they
horrible.
could remove it, then...
It's a horrible contract.
So, yeah, so, I mean, I think that's a move that they should definitely look into. As well as, I mean, they're definitely one of those teams, I feel. I mean, especially with all the draft picks that they have acquired, they could easily be contenders right away. They could easily trade for a couple stars and be right in the picture. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because me personally, I think, they already got some nice pieces there with Shea, Dort. I think Dort's a nice player. And also, I don't even think Muscala is really all that bad. So, I mean, I would like it if, the Thunder used some of their draft picks and tried to get a team going there. Because I don't think it will take much. I mean...
I don't see him using every draft pick as a draft pick. I see him using some of it to acquire some talent, too.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is use some of that draft compensation to trade for a star of some sort. I mean, or...
Somebody young that's young that you can build around.
Yeah, exactly. So... that's kind of how I picture them going about it. I mean, I definitely think that, keeping some of them is definitely worthwhile, but at the same time, I mean, if they want to get good fast, then I would look into trading some of it.
Well, they got a ton of draft picks. We all know that.
Yeah.
They're probably sitting better than anybody is in the league as far as future draft picks are concerned. Like Bryson said, this is kind of what they said they were going to do last year. So the fact that they've done these moves and the team is what it is right now shouldn't surprise anybody, And like he said, at least it's a clear direction of what their intentions are. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket saying we're winning now. They're looking to be, a contender in the future and have, and build towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll see how it works out for them. Their draft history would tell you that they have a better than average chance of probably drafting pretty good. They seem to have a good eye for talent that will work in their system. So, with that being said, if you're a Thunder fan at this point, you just kind of got to roll with the punches. Realize that, like he said as well, you're not horrible. You're in games. You're competitive. So the rebuild's actually kind of ahead of schedule, in my opinion. And depending on what their goals are, as far as how guys are going to fit in, you got some, like Bennett said, you got a lot of nice young pieces already. Now you can start to build around them, and then maybe bring in a younger all-star type talent to kind of take over and guide this team. Which, who knows? Maybe that talent's already there. Maybe Shea's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So far he hasn't showed anything to prove it, to prove to me that he's not. He's a very solid player, and definitely should be a piece of theirs moving forward. I wouldn't think that he should be somebody they look to move anytime soon.
No.
So, I like they're again they're kind of like Bryson said earlier, the Pistons and the Thunder are kind of in the same boat with where they are going and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I do think at this point that the Thunder are a little further ahead as far as the talent that's already there assembled, and most of it is young. I think there's a lot of pieces they can move forward with that will give good depth, if nothing else, if they do decide to bring in some bigger players.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a good sign for them. As per usual with any of this stuff, it all comes down to what does the cap look like, and who can you bring in under the cap that's going to help your team.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that's really what it amounts to, is getting rid of bad contracts and I mean, drafting these guys when they're young is nice, and you can get them on a rookie contract for whatever many years it is. I think 2 or 4, something like that. But once that rookie contract comes up, it's time to pay the piper, and then you got to make decisions. So that's why it's, that's why I think the window closes so fast of when you can actually contend for the championship, opposed to being in some type of a rebuild. I mean, even teams that aren't necessarily rebuilding, due to cap structure and stuff like that, are constantly having to reload, put lesser pieces in, or take chances on guys that maybe weren't, high draft picks or something of that nature, because they can afford to have them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like we just talked about Blake Griffin, here's a perfect example. The Pistons are going to owe him almost $37,000 this year. He's making
$37 million. You mean?
Yeah, $37 million. Next year, he's on the books for $38 million, almost $39. So there's your problem right there. So his contract was backloaded because when they first got him, he was playing at $29 million, which was a reasonable contract.
Yeah.
But now his contract's backloaded, so we're paying him $37 million this year. So good luck trying to trade him now, because who's going to want to take on a $38 million, $39 million contract?
Yeah, especially
for an aging player that's hurt all the time.
Well, and not only that, but what the other thing to consider is, even if teams would want to, who would be able to? Even if they wouldn't mind taking on that contract, who at this point would have the capabilities to be able to take on a contract like that?
Most likely a team that's worse or is in the same boat as Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. Which
could be like, to me, a team that would be interested in taking his contract on would be somebody that's looking for some star talent to bring people into the stands.
Charlotte would be
somebody that's looking for some star talent,
like the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean the Knicks could be a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean they could actually be a possibility.
T-Wolves.
Because the thing that's nice about this contract, though, not that there's anything really good about it, but the nice thing is that you only have to pay that 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then he's a free agent, or you extend the contract out and sign him for, and pay him less per year.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's some options there for other teams if they're interested in his talent. But I mean, like I said, it's just one of those things where, and a lot of the contracts are probably kind of similar to this, where a lot of them were backloaded.
Mm-hmm.
To where they'll be willing to play for less now, but at the end of it, they want to get their money.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, hence the reason that players want him that way, because they know that if something happens, they're still going to be getting paid.
Yeah. No, that being said, that had nothing to do with the Thunder, but just saying, the Thunder and the Pistons are in this kind of a similar scenario where they're both trying to get young and improve the roster through the draft, more so than even through free agency. So, bringing in the young players and this and that is probably the right move. And like he said before, you can get good in a hurry if you just get the right mixture of players together, especially in basketball, because
There's less of them.
There's less players, and if you can get some pretty decent talent and have them play together as a team, you can actually do things. But whatever. It is what it is.
Yep.
To make a long story short, with all three of these teams, it's for the Pistons and the Thunder, there wasn't a whole lot expected going in.
And we're not getting a whole lot.
and especially in the Pistons case, we're not seeing a whole lot coming out.
Yeah.
I think the Thunder, like I said, I think they're actually at least competitive. And the Pistons have actually been competitive in most of their games, but they just aren't winning them.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you can go and beat the Lakers by 10 one night and then take them to double overtime the next night or the next game or whatever tells you a lot. I mean, it tells you that they have some talent,
Mm-hmm.
and are capable of playing with them.
And also, and for both teams, really, it kind of speaks highly of the coach as well. That, the coach has the team prepared and, competing like that, even though they obviously don't have the talent of some of these other rosters. So, because, it's not an uncommon thing for the Thunder to be in a lot of these games.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're in pretty much all the games, and then, sometimes they're in it for a half, and then it just kind of gets the doors blown off in the second, or, they're usually competing, and same thing with the Pistons. A general thing is that, they are in the game but just can't win it. Or they, they are up in it and then it goes to overtime and they lose. Or, that's what happened with the Thunder last night against the Lakers. So, we're able to play. It's just, can you actually win the game and not?
Well,
but,
and the other piece of that is when you're already limited talent-wise and then you're missing players due to injury.
Well, yeah.
That really starts to test your depth.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're already behind the eight ball talent-wise, having to play all these young guys isn't going to help anything.
Yeah.
But the good thing about stuff like that, though, is, a lot of these players that are seeing a lot of game time because of a guy like Blake Griffin being out or Derrick Rose being hurt or whoever was hurt, is they're getting to see the floor.
Yeah.
And that's how you get better, is being out there.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing for the Pistons is, they had Killian Hayes out for a while. So it's well, he's one of the people you want to see, and he's sitting on the shelf. So that's tough.
No, I think he's still out.
Yeah, he might be. I haven't.
But here's the thing with, Killian, I like him a lot. I think he's going to have a bright future. But again, it's one of those things where Sadiq Bey has stepped up and played well.
Yeah.
And like I said, they've got some young players there that are not bad. To me, it's just, they don't have the piece in place that can take them to the next level yet.
Yeah.
And it usually takes 1 or 2 seasons to get your feet on the ground, kind of like what Shea did. Shea played kind of pretty good in his rookie season for the Clippers. And then when he got to the Thunder last year, he played really well. After having that 1 year under his belt, he decided that, hey, I belong in this league and I can play. And so his game has went on an upward trajectory. And this year, he's playing like a boss.
Honestly, I think he's playing all-star type basketball this year. I've seen multiple occasions where he's put up 30 plus and done it pretty easily. So
he's averaging 22.6 points per game, which is right up there with pretty much any of the all-star. That's right in that conversation with top scorers are around that area.
His biggest problem is that, for him to get to an all-star game, he's going he's going up against all the guys from the West. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, good luck of unseating Steph Curry from the All-Star game, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. There's that.
I
and
mean,
then also include the fact that, I mean, it's fan voted and stuff, and it's like, well, I mean, maybe the Thunder have a better chance than other teams, but hell, just look at last year. I mean, in my opinion, there's no way that Dennis Schroeder should have not been the sixth man of the year. But who are they going to pick? Some guy from Oklahoma City or an LA? I mean, does the person from Oklahoma City, a team that nobody really gives a crap about, unless you're from the area, pretty much? I mean, like I said, Thunder less so because even though they are from a small market, they've managed to be very, very competitive. So they do have fans, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, they're not like, you know, maybe Charlotte or something, a team that's always pretty much sucked, and they're a small market. I mean, the Thunder have had competitive teams, and they have good ownership and stuff, which allows them to maybe be a little bit more relevant than other teams from a market like Oklahoma City. But even with that being said, I mean, again, you're going to take, you know, give it to Lou Williams, who's in the city of LA, where, you know, everybody, you know, wants to have LA, and that's a sports center market, you know, a flagship city for sports center and these companies and stuff. So obviously, you know, given the choice between LA and Oklahoma City, not just in picking all-stars, but even free agency and stuff, who's going to pick Oklahoma City? And not only that, but compared to a team like LA, who are people watching? You know what I mean? Are the Thunder going to be shown on TV? Or if they're playing somebody good, or are they going to show the Clippers? Probably the Clippers, because that's money. Whereas a lot of people, you know, if you're not a Thunder fan right now, good luck naming somebody on the roster. I mean, I'm being honest. You know, maybe you know Al Horford went there. Maybe you know Shai Gilgeous, but apart from that, you know, outside of the playoff run last year, you see that everybody that was a part of that team pretty much got traded. So, you know, you probably wouldn't be able to name many people. You probably couldn't list the starting five. Hell, half the time I can't. I mean, half the time I'm like, who the hell is this? But anyway.
Who the hell is Lugan's Dort?
No, I mean, I know Dort, but I'm talking like, you know, we got people like Justin Jackson and people like that, and I'm like, who the hell are these people? I mean, I'm out here seeing them for the first time. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, if I don't even know sometimes, how are people that aren't in OKC going to know? However, you know, probably anybody can name the starting five for the Clippers if they call themselves a basketball fan, because they're shown on TV all the time, and they have noteworthy players. So, but all I'm saying is at the end of the day, you know, you're looking at a difference in marketplace, you're looking at a difference in destination, and all of these different things, and it's just very difficult. And like he said, for the All-Star game, I mean, when people aren't even seeing the Thunder, I can't even watch the Thunder half the time. They never are shown on TV. Ever. Last season, they were shown some because they were decent. And when they had Westbrook and some of these guys, they put them on a decent amount. But this year, shoot, I don't even know. I can't recall the last time they were shown on TV. So, I mean, if I'm a fan and I'm trying to watch them and I can't find them, at least where I live, good luck to people that aren't. You know what I mean? They're not going to have any idea. So, good luck getting to an All-Star game or anything like that, because guess what? You know, they're going to send Montrezl Harrell because he's on the Lakers, even though Shai is going to outpoint him and all this other stuff. They'll send Harrell before he makes it. And that's just the unfortunate reality of the situation. And it all, like Dad said too, if he was in the East, maybe a different story. But being on the West too, I mean, good luck. You're going against Anthony Davis, and hell, just on the Lakers alone, you're looking at 3-4 people getting sent.
Yeah.
Just in the city of LA, you're looking at a starting 5. You know what I mean? So it's tough, but whatever. I mean,
you could make the whole all-star roster just with the 2 Clippers and Lakers.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
You wouldn't need anybody else.
And they could compete.
They probably could beat any other 5 you want to put out there.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I would put that. I put those 2 teams if you merge them together. I don't see anybody beating them.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Nobody. I don't see
exactly.
a team beating them. I don't care. You take the rest of the league and put a team together, and they're not going to beat those 2 teams.
They're gonna at least have their work cut out for them at the very least.
I mean, you got an all-star at every position.
Pretty much, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying.
You'd have no worries. The only concern you could feasibly have would be point guard.
Yeah, because across those 2, I mean, there's not really much.
Well, they got Schroeder.
Yeah, but he's not. I don't consider him to be a league elite point guard. Like, he's okay. He's a good player, but he's not a Steph Curry or somebody like that. He's not in that realm.
He's not. I wouldn't say he's Steph Curry, but I'd say he's another Lou Williams, just at a different position.
He can play. I'm not taking anything away from the guy.
No, I know. No, I agree.
But I mean, that would be the only position on the floor
where you don't have somebody that
I would feel like we don't have the best player.
Yeah. No, exactly. But
that would be it.
But apart from that, yeah, everybody's pretty solid. So
everybody else you can make a case for.
Yeah. But anyway, this video's gone over an hour now, so we'll go ahead and cap it off here. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you for watching this video. If you like what you heard, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to check out our other content. We have multiple other videos from all. Yeah, no kidding. If you're still awake.
If you're still awake and or haven't turned off the channel yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know nobody's still in here at this point, but if you are, thank you. And make sure you check out our other content. We got basketball, football, hockey, baseball, all kinds of different stuff. So make sure you check that stuff out. So with that being said, Bryson,
Bennett,
and Steve.
See you guys in the next video.